Cancer, your cards look very empowering this month for November. Of course, we start out with the void and sovereignty. So, whatever this journey is, and I'm going to be referencing the book periodically as I need to. This is not a deck I generally tend to use, but again, general reads may not speak to all of you, and some of you may be just moving into the energy. Some of you it might be still a little further out because we are dealing with different timelines. So, but either way, the energy looks to be in around you enduring a journey. The card of the void is one that is a singular journey, something that you have to do to find yourself. I mean, this is going through the shadow work. This is going through the dark spaces. This is taking that time to kind of reset yourself and release the things that you've been resisting. This is definitely a time of possibility because when you think about it, there was something I referenced on I think it was a YouTube video, and I can't quite remember, but it was something about, when we close our eyes and we go to sleep and then we wake up, it's a whole new day. It's a whole new time, to take advantage of that moment and move ourselves forward. But either way, I mean, we always have to come back to the darkness. We always come back to the darkness right before we see the light. So, never fear any spaces that you have to be in that are really a time of percolating possibility. Just because you can't see where things are going or have a perfect handle on it doesn't mean it's not moving or being projected into the right positive spaces. But again, it's where your thoughts go, energy flows, that kind of thing as well. So even though you're doing the dark, those kinds of things, it's also about how do you shift out of those fears. But we'll get to that here in a minute. So right now, I feel like you're letting go of the things that, like releasing, stinking thinking, all of that. It's, really working through your bad belief systems. I should say bad belief systems, but belief systems that no longer work for you as you're moving and growing. But it's also getting to know yourself because this is that space of unknowable secrets. So everything and nothing, this is the place to prepare, because you're resting right now before you move into this new space that's going to allow you to build on who you are becoming. And of course, that will take decisions. But right now, you're making the plans right in this space with the dark moon. And again, there may be still some things that you're working through as far as resistance, but it's definitely a sign that you are letting go of something that isn't, fulfilling you in a positive way or allowing you to become the best version of yourself or a better version of yourself. And allowing you to be powerful. So again, anything that's an outdated mode, belief system, action, behavior, anything like that, whatever you were carrying, you're not going to act it out this month. You're not going to sit there and let it revolve in a cathartic way over and over and over. You're actually going to relax and reframe how you think about it so that you have a much better life without that bad habit or without that fear or without that pattern. That's what this card is all about. So, again, you're looking at your life in real terms. How you identified yourself before is not how you're going to be identifying yourself in the future because you're now a different person. You've done a lot of shadow work, you've done a lot of kind of trauma. How do I say trauma work, where you're just releasing and again, cutting the cords with old cycles. So realizing that you are not who you were, you are now stronger. It is an individual journey here again, because there's a card of sovereignty here. It's not, I mean, for sure, you're doing the footwork. You might be getting some extra help or you might be getting some additional information to do this work. But again, you're still starting to take sovereignty over your own life. So you're starting to act in a more confident way. You realizing that you do have abilities and that you are powerful. And now you're going to start acting like it. You realize that you reign over your own realm. But you're striving to be more powerful, I feel, in this period. And this is also where you have to be a little quieter and look for inner wisdom. You might still experience some of those inequalities, but it's almost like you're okay with the uncertainty. You're okay with the things around you that are imperfect, and the world, you're seeing the world as it is, not how you think it should be with you. And you're not personalizing maybe as much because you're investing more in growing your own self awareness, and you're trusting your self care and your self esteem. And you're doing things in a more practical way. So again, this is where you're setting firm boundaries. You're protecting, those things around your ability to be strong. um, you're trying to be fair here, and you're pushing against the things that don't respect you or that don't respect your time. So again, it's a really strong, empowering kind of month. So we'll get right into the other cards here for you also. So we're looking at, again, creating balance, and this is a 9 and a 1, of course, so it's a 10. You are at that final stage now where you are in a place where you're actually starting to believe that there is a lot more that you can bring to the table here. You've got a lot of knowledge, you've got a lot more balance that you can harness. Is more of a, you're not doing things in an unhealthy way here. This is where you're starting to realize you don't have to overreact. You're much more grounded. You're allowing your strength to come to the surface and deal with situations. You are starting to be aware of where your imbalances are in your life, what your triggers are. This is where you're starting to practice more flow, more balance, more peacefulness. You're just moving yourself into a space where you're able to, what was seemed impossible to achieve before, you're now able to start to understand how to balance yourself out so that you can still move forward. So, again, seeing the world as imperfect and unstable and chaotic as it is, but still able to make little adjustments and tweaks to yourself so that you are living in the right moment here, or you're living in the moment where there's balance and there's process. And you're doing it in a very wise way. So, again, you're making decisions and moving forward, based on the best version of yourself, or how you want to see yourself, how you want to identify yourself. So, again, there's a lot of self reflection going on this month. You're not doing anything too fast, you're taking things at an easy pace. You're very balanced. And again, you are craving more peace in this time versus, anything that's too extreme. So when we get to, and of course, that's bringing about balance, this is bringing about abundance. So you are feeling a lot more centered here. You're seeing things in a new way, and you're starting to feel like there's a lot more that you can take advantage of around you. You're starting to see the possibilities and opportunities around you, and you're just much more open this month for November. This is also where there is an end cycle here, where you had been struggling to find the balance. And this is again where you're now starting to take advantage of, and preparing, you're preparing your skill set to be able to grow and move into a new space here. So this is where it's, more of the things that you need, your needs are being met. That's what that card represents. Okay, so we're getting into the card of resistance. So again, as I mentioned, I feel like whatever you were resisting, you're starting to really break apart and analyze. You're familiarizing yourself with the things that you were bound by, or that you felt had more of a control or handle over you, and you're kind of slamming the door in its face, so to speak. That's what the card depicts here. But that could go for anything or include anything around procrastination or whatever those fears are. And you're finding you're much more compassionate with yourself, and you're much more confident, and there's a lot more persistence to get through things, because I feel like you are more in flow, and you're definitely in more control of a situation. So even though you can't control the external world, and those things, certain things may still be obstacles around you or blocked, I feel like you are more accepting of, you're okay with being around levels of uncertainty or pain, because you're not letting that old pattern or that old addiction or that old reaction, be your go-to anymore. This is really where you are removing, you created a strategy for yourself. You're harnessing new tools into a situation, and you're just allowing the problem to flow through you until you can see that there is, something that you want, or a way to get past that blockage. And I think you're starting to ask a lot more questions here. Again, what were you frightened over? And how would you behave if you didn't have that fear, but you're also creating more of a strategy about your toolbox? Who's around you? What can you use? What friends do you have to maybe drop from your roster, and which ones, what were the things that you were thinking before that were limiting? And you're starting to see that it's okay to fail, but fail wisely. And what I mean by that is not repeating the same mistake. It's okay to repeat a mistake, but tweak it so that you can do something different in how you go into battle, or how you survive life and its challenges. So when we get to, again, the card of faith, I feel like this is the area that you're kind of struggling with a little bit, um, or you have been kind of working through. So when you're struggling through, the card of faith, this is where you're not really quite sure what to believe, or that you didn't feel that you had um, maybe control over a certain area. Like you felt like you couldn't trust the process anyway. But I feel like that's where you maybe still sort of dealing with something, but you're still getting through it. Like I said, it's an individual journey here that only you can go through, but you're still finding resources, and you're a lot more open to the things that are coming through here. Okay, so again, the card of faith does represent, things being much more abundant, and of course, it's right beside that card here as well. You're in a period of gestation where you know that things are going to be okay. You're starting to trust that process, but you did have to work through. Some of you may still be in the energy of working through that, but you're starting to see that things are not hopeless. There is hope again here, and that even when things fail, it's difficult to rely on yourself again, or find that resilience, that strength to get through something. So it's slowly returning to the land of uh, I don't want to say the land of right, but slowly returning to the land of self, where you actually start to have more faith in yourself. And again, it's kind of starting to work through those anxieties, working through the things that you can't see yet, but you have more faith in the process. You are realizing that you are more intentional in going forward. You realize that you have something to offer, and it's also about planting. Planting the seeds to take advantage of something that's going to be further up ahead. But this is where you're at. That's the energy that you're you're building up your resistance. You're building up a toolbox to be able to work through a situation so that you can continue to heal. And of course, again, all the cards seem to be more empowering. You're starting to trust that there is a new beginning for you. You're developing more self trust, that it's okay to rely on your own skill set or capabilities, or, plan for the future, that kind of thing. So it's getting to know yourself better. It's trusting that you can be better, that you can do better, that you can be more confident. And there's nothing wrong with working through the shadow work, because there is security at the core of those places, because it's wisdom that matters, wisdom of self. And it's also about allowing things to flow through you, like mindfulness. It's okay to feel bad, but you're not hanging on to the emotion. It's just going through you. So what? It's just another day. When you close your eyes and you go to sleep and you wake up again, it's a new day to work through. And every day, making a small, subtle shift leads to something larger at the end of it. But either way, there's self trust and full acceptance of yourself that you're working through. And I feel like that's empowering you, and it's allowing you to become more at ease with yourself. And again, I feel like you're starting to trust that you can make the right decisions for you. Um, because you've gone through a lot of stages of darkness, and again, working through ego shadow work. So I just feel like you're in a happier place, because you're starting to see that you matter, and that's really what this is about. I was going to reference something that I'll do that here in a minute as well. But there was a book that I'm reading called Building the Life That You Want, which is really interesting. It was working with Oprah Winfrey, and it talks a lot about that too, about a fellow who was in search of happiness. And he's actually a professor at Harvard University, and he does teach happiness. But again, it was not because he was a happy person to begin with and knew how to affect change and happiness. He had to actually go through practicing it every single day, before it all of a sudden registered. And because he was more focused on academia, that's how he was actually able to bring about the results that he wanted. He did deal with levels of depression initially. It was kind of a family lineage thing. It's dealing with the chemicals in the brain and all of that. So because of that, it was a little bit more of a process, and it did take a lot more energy and involvement and immersing himself to be able to make those changes. But either way, I'll get back to that. So, this particular card of self reflection is where you're saying, I'm not afraid to look at myself in its entirety now. I'm looking at my strengths, I'm looking at my weaknesses, I'm exposing it in some way to work through it, whether that's with other people or spiritually or in psychology or psychiatry or anything like that, or a counselor or something like that. You're now able to, you're taking some kind of respite in being allowed to free yourself, doing this work. So it's a slow process, but we all would benefit from this from time to time, because when you go inward, we sometimes get so busy in the hustle and bustle of life that we forget when what matters. And I'll read something about that too, about the four pillars of our foundation and how we get through things. But either way, you're coming to it more naturally. And it's again starting small, but you're kind of building on that. And it definitely speaks to um, kind of recapping, your thoughts. So you're looking at things and sitting quietly and looking at more of your reactions to things and why you react in the way that you do. And you're kind of recording it in such a way that that it is not to lock yourself into that emotion, but more to self-reflect and realize that it's okay to have those feelings of vulnerability and anger or guilt and defensiveness, whatever that is, because you're growing into a place where there's more responsibility, self-responsibility for your thoughts and your actions. So again, the card really speaks to catching yourself before something gets out of hand, learning your triggers, stopping patterns, any negative cycles. You are not reflecting on it so long that that you're building a resistance against it. You're actually reflecting on it and saying, okay, that's what's in my sphere at this time, but I am trying to attract something else into my world. So that's being released because it's not in line with the path I'm on. So the card of attraction is one, of course, of drawing the things to you that you need in your life, drawing the things to you that you want, taking more stock of those things here as well, being receptive to it. But it's also realizing the things that you don't want. So, by virtue of putting a boundary around those things, you're actually able to draw in and attract more things that, are drawing more attention to yourself as well. I feel like you're a little more magnetic here as well. But there's also getting rid of extremes. And again, anything that was too much of a negative cycle in your body or in your mind, you're realizing that your connections to your body and your mind are greater than yourself. So you have to treat your body well, treat your mind well, really look at the things in more of, I'm trying to see if I can, how I would put that. Trying to look at things from the forces that, the forces of change, like you're trying to look at how you can change these things that you're dealing with in this month. Like I said, there's a lot of introspection here, and that's where you're finding kind of that powerful um, intention. You're really setting a strong intention, is what I would say there. And again, it could be more of a mission statement here as well, because you're trying to grow and attract experiences, certain experiences in your life that you want. And by doing so, that means that you accept what you can't control. You're not turning a blind eye to it. You're aware of what the world is doing or how something is impacting you. But it's also suggesting that you're more than that one part. You are a part of a whole. And so, because of that, um, I feel like you are getting in touch with more of the happiness within yourself, because you're not just focusing on that one element of your life and defining yourself by it. So this one, self-love, is exactly that. This is a time where you are in a space where there might have been trouble before. You didn't have a lot of self-love. You didn't have a lot of uh, inner resilience, but that's not where things are now. This is where you're starting to find some empowerment. You're starting to realize that the work starts from the inside out. You're not comparing yourself to others. Your change and your focus, it starts with, how you see yourself in the world, because that's how you're going to show up in the world and that's what other people are going to see. So, if you didn't feel like you were good enough before, that voice is being silent. Whether you thought you weren't smart enough, you're now putting some work and time and energy into building up the areas of yourself that you felt were not in line with how you saw yourself in the old way. Again, some of you, and we all go through it, where a person feels like they're not smart enough, not pretty enough, not, strong enough, not financial, wealthy enough, that kind of thing. But what it really boils down to is not comparing yourself again to other people. You're on this earth for your own experience, and it's going to be very different from other people. So you're not looking at the extremes again, where you're saying, I am not too much of something, or I'm too much of something. You're actually starting to, again, try to create more balance in your thoughts and the way that you deal with life. So again, self-love is a really strong, empowering card. Definitely speaks to putting a stop to things where you can just breathe in. I love myself. Okay, that might sound corny, but you're breathing into a more positive thought pattern, um, and you're starting to see that there's more flow here. There's less you listening to all the negativity or voices in your head that try to throw you under the bus. You're now in a space where you're starting to soothe yourself and realize that you're not your past. This is, again, more compassion for self, not comparing yourself to things that divert you from your path or from a path that is empowering. The path that's disempowering is the false path. The path that is empowering is the one where you make decisions, you focus on you, and you go toward change, and it's whatever builds your confidence level. Choose you is the message of this card. Choose you. So anyway, I'm going to leave it at that, because I think that's pretty much the outlay of that month. But again, I'll do the tarot readings for you as well in November. But you are very resistant in this month, and there's like a toolbox of something here that you are relying on that's really helpful. And I think that is the best course of action at this time. So again, stay the course and keep moving forward and never give up.